So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Today we will get back here at BSN Arc. This is the BSN Arc podcast here today. It is Friday, August 7th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. It is Friday. We got to the weekend, which is great. It's always a goal. Get to the weekend, and then you're in the weekend, and that's nice. And then obviously, then Monday has to ruin it all. And you come back on Monday, and you're like, but anyway, we do have a lot of sports to get to today. A ton of NFL news, baseball, basketball, hockey, all that good stuff. Every single day, I have baseball, basketball, and hockey on this podcast. Soon. It might just be, depending on how the Islanders do, depending on how the Nets do, depending on how whatever happens. It might just be the Yankees and the Mets. It might just be the Nets and the Yankees, or whatever happens. Should be very 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 interesting. But anyway, we have a lot of sports to get to today. We got the Tre'Davious White and the Bills, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, opted in to play football, although that might not be, everybody's like, White. I mean, one thing is he said that he's thinking about opting out. He was really considering opting out. It was a breaking story. He got a lot of backlash from fans saying, oh, why are you opting out, stuff like that. And sure enough, he ended up opting in. He is playing for the Buffalo Bills this season. Their best cornerback, one of their best players on defense, if not their best player if not one of the best. He is their best player on the defense. I mean, he probably is the second, third, top 5 corner in the NFL right now. First team All-Pro last year, PFWA All-Rookie team, which was 2017, not last year. But, I mean, he's been a great player. He's been a great player for the Bills, was a Pro Bowler. He's opted in, which is huge for the Bills. A huge big gain for the Bills. If the Bills lose him, their secondary is not the same. So we'll talk about him coming up in just a couple of, 35 or whatever, a couple seconds here. We'll talk about him. Then we have the NFL tests. We have the NFL test results. There's some new test results. 56 positive cases, which is very good. The positive test rate is still below 1%, which is what we want to see. I think the big thing is if it gets above like 5-10%, that's where you're all right, well, we might have to shut this thing down. It is still below 1%, which is amazing. Only 56 positive. It might seem like a lot, but out of, I think, 3,000 something people they tested, only 56. Very good news for the NFL. They're still staying on the right track, have not gotten many positive cases, staying on the right track. And you know what this means? The more positive cases, more players are going to get the antibodies, which means more players will be able to fight off the virus. So that is good for the NFL. Then we have the Yankees, Mets, Nets, and Islanders to cap off the podcast today. So this is the BSN Arc podcast. So let's get right into it. So Tre'Davious White, I kind of alluded to this earlier on in just about a minute or two ago. I was talking about how Tre'Davious White, very good cornerback for the Bills. You can make the argument he is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. You could make the argument he is the best in the NFL. Now, do I think he is? No. There's a guy named Stephon Gilmore who, I'll tell you what, and I was kind of thinking about this yesterday. Stephon Gilmore is probably the best cornerback in the NFL. Probably the best cornerback in the NFL. Tre'Davious White, I think, was the 43rd best player, 43rd, I think, for 47th or 43rd best player on the NFL top 100. Out of the top 100, he was ranked 43. So he's ranked top 50. So people have him as a top 40 or top 50 player in the NFL, which is an honor. Being top 100 is good. Then being top 50 is really good. Top 20 is very good. Top 10 is amazing. Top 5 is insane. Number 1 is just crazy. Great. It's just great. Obviously Tre'Davious White is very, very good. What he did last season for the Bills was unbelievable. He was one of the key components to that Bills playoff run. They didn't really make a playoff run. They didn't make a playoff run, meaning like in the playoffs they made, divisional championship, Super Bowl. They didn't do that, but when they made the playoffs, he was a key component in being second in the division, getting the wild card, and a very key player, key factor in that just the whole season in general. And what's great about Tre'Davious White? He can guard the number one cornerback or guard the number one receiver on that team, and he stays healthy. He hasn't had many injuries. His one injury that he had was a quad contusion, and it was low. It was a left quad contusion. It was low. It was the preseason of 2019. He had a quad contusion. That is not bad. That's not bad. It was just a little quad contusion, which is like what? I think a bruise. It was low, meaning like in the pain level, the severity level, it was low. So what that means is he's able to stay healthy. It's not like a break or a fracture or anything like that. It's not anything that really made him miss significant time. But Tre'Davious White, you could probably say is probably the best player on that Bills defense. Now, we don't know what AJ Epinesa is going to do. Micah Hyde's very good. You got a couple good players scattered out here and there on that Bills defense, but besides the John Brown, Cole Beasley, were very efficient. They were very productive last season in their playoff run. Tre'Davious White was a big factor on that defense. Tre'Davious White, he's only 25 years old. He's only 25 years old. He's only 25. He's young. He's still very young. I would say if he continues to do what he does, the Bills got to sign him to a long extension. They got to give him the money because Tre'Davious White is worth every single penny, in my opinion. He was picked in the 27th pick of the 17 draft, right? He was out of LSU. He's only 5'11", which is just amazing because corners, are tiny sometimes, but 5'11" against some of these 6'5", 6'6" receivers, and he's still able to knock the ball down. His vertical is insane, very athletic, very good, quick, very just overall very good player. He's only 192 pounds, which is lower than 200, which means he's not that heavy. He's not that heavy, which means he can move, he can run, he's good, and he's 5'11", and he's tiny. He's a little bit tiny on the tinier side, which isn't bad, but when he's going up against these 6'5", 6'6" receivers, he gets up there with that vertical of his. He's very athletic, very good. Bills' probably best player on their defense last season is Tre'Davious White. Was their only Pro Bowler, I'm pretty sure, too, was Tre'Davious White. But yeah, obviously his 40-yard dash was 4.47. He's very, very good. I mean, he's very good. A lot of these stats I'm looking at are all top 100. Some are top 50. Some's top 10. A lot of these things that I see out of Tre'Davious White is very, very, very good. And like I said, he's able to stay healthy. It's not like he's an amazing player gets injured. Amazing player gets injured. Amazing player gets injured. He's not like he's a Cam Newton. Cam Newton, one of the best quarterbacks in 2015, if not the best quarterback, gets injured. Comes back, gets injured. Comes back, gets injured. Right? Then foot injury ended last season. Then all of a sudden now he's done, and now he's with the Patriots. Done with the Panthers. Now he's with the Patriots. But if Stephon Gilmore was not a thing in the NFL, Tre'Davious White would probably be up there. Stephon Gilmore's unreal. I mean, Stephon Gilmore could do everything. A good. He could man, zone, all that good stuff. Stephon Gilmore is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Stephon Gilmore is a very good player. For the New England Patriots. He used to be a Buffalo Bill, and that is one point I wanted to get into. Imagine if Tre'Davious White and Stephon Gilmore used to be a Buffalo Bill. He was on the Buffalo Bills. He's so much better now that he's on the Patriots, but he was very productive, still very good with the Buffalo Bills. He was good with the Buffalo Bills, and he was good with the New England, and very good with the New England Patriots. If Tre'Davious White and Stephon Gilmore were still on the Bills, Tre'Davious White is, Stephon Gilmore, if them two are on the Bills together, let's just say Stephon Gilmore stayed on the Bills. If they were on the same team, and that same Bills team, this secondary would be nasty. You're talking about maybe one of the best secondaries in the NFL, because then you have Micah Hyde at the safety, then you have obviously Tre'Davious White, your other corners, and then obviously you have Stephon Gilmore. Their defensive line is decent. They obviously got rid of Shaq Lawson, who had one of his best years of his career last season. They got rid of him to the Dolphins, but he was not anything the Bills expected. He wasn't anything crazy. They drafted him when the Bills drafted Shaq Lawson. I was like, oh, they're getting a stud. They are, and because what I saw at Clemson was one of the best players in that draft. He wasn't that great in the NFL. Wonder if he could turn around in Miami. We'll obviously have to follow him. But that Bills defense could be nasty. And they are still a very good defense. And I'll tell you what, this is a defense that helped them so much. Everybody talked about Josh Allen's improvement. Everybody talked about Frank Gore's and, Frank Gore's and out of the middle of nowhere, Devin Singletary making some nice plays. Everybody talked about, Cole Beasley and John Brown, being productive. Cole Beasley being a fast, productive slot receiver. John Brown being your deep ball, mid route threat. This was a team that everybody was like, okay, let's see Josh Allen's arm power, all that. But really, that Tre'Davious White, that defense led by Tre'Davious White was really the key factor, in my opinion, of the Bills making the playoffs. Now, sure, there was a couple. I mean, you have to also say, the Bills are, for example, even against like the Ravens. The defense held them in that game. The defense kept them in that game. The Bills just couldn't convert on the big play on fourth down of the game. That was a big play. The Bills defense stayed together that whole game. The offense just had to get something going. They did a little bit, but they still found a way to lose. Even that Bengals game. Now, I know I'm talking about the Bengals, but week 2, nobody knew. Bengals were 0-1. People are like, okay, Bengals are only 0-1. At that time, nobody was really thinking of, they're this bad. Bills versus Bengals comes down to the final play of the game for the Bengals, and the Bills ended up stopping the play. And that was huge. That's another big stop the Bills made. The Bills made a couple nice plays against the Texans, Deshaun Watson and that sack play where they, two guys came up against, I forget the two guys. I think one was Lorenzo Alexander. I think one of them, I don't know. But they came up, they hit each other, fell off. Deshaun Watson rolled out, threw it, and got a first down or whatever. And it was an unreal play. But it was just crazy, and that defense kept them in that game, though. That offense scored early points, couldn't score anymore. The defense kept them in the game. Your defense is eventually, your defense is eventually going to fall apart. They would let up a score, stop them. Let up a score, stop them. And in their offense, they were getting stops. Their offense just couldn't get any more points. Josh Allen made a couple mental mistakes. Their offense just didn't seem to click later on in that game. Josh Allen almost lost them that game. I'm pretty sure whenever he slid and he tried to lateral it back, but I'm pretty sure his knee was already down. I don't know what he was doing there. Playoff jitters, first time being in the playoffs for Josh Allen, things like that. But this defense was big, and Tre'Davious White was a big part of it. So Tre'Davious White, his game log, and this is just was something I wanted to really show people. So these were all of the receivers he was guarding during the season. And I'll tell you what, as the season went on, he as the season went on, he guarded better receivers, because Tre'Davious White, his whole career has been an okay cornerback. He's been nothing crazy. He's okay. So the first 5 games you'll see on here when I talk about guarding number one receivers, you're like, what are you talking about? But it's the first couple of games. It's when you get to like the later on games where they're like, okay, this guy's having a great year. Then they start to put him up against the true number ones. So here we go. So week 1, he guarded Quincy Enunwa. He got 100% of the snaps there, and he only got 6 receptions, 7 targets, 48 yards. No interceptions or no breakups. Week 2, the Giants, he guarded Benny Fowler 90.9% of the time. He had 5 receptions, 9 targets, 50 yards, no burns, no interceptions. So that's good. That's pretty good. No interception, but that's all good. Number 3 is Cincinnati. They played John Ross, 84.2% of the snaps, 2 receptions, 7 targets, 50 yards, and he had 2 interceptions. So that was unreal. Against John Ross, too. John Ross is one of the fastest players, if not the fastest player. Now, you got Henry Ruggs, obviously, but probably the fastest player in the NFL. And you got Tre'Davious White, fast, but not as fast as John Ross, and he got 2 interceptions on him. And John Ross didn't burn him once. 0 times. He didn't burn him once. Number 4, week 4, they played New England Patriots. He guarded Josh Gordon 85.5% of the snaps. He got 2 catches, 5 targets, and 8 yards. and nothing after that. Absolutely nothing after that. So, he got nothing. No interceptions, no burns. But other than that, really nothing. It was a good game. Number 5, week 5, they played Tennessee. Guarded Corey Davis 92.6% of the time. Two receptions, 2 targets. 37 yards, no interceptions, no yards, or no burns, no interceptions, all that stuff. Week 7, they played Devontae Parker. They played Miami. He guarded Devontae Parker. It's kind of funny because, in a way, as a cornerback, right? As a cornerback, you're like your team's playing Miami or your team's playing whatever team you're playing. It's almost like that. It's almost like that game as a cornerback. You're like, okay, I'm playing this guy. I'm playing Devontae Parker today. Or I'm playing Corey Davis or Josh Gordon or Cortland Sutton or whatever. Just naming some of the guys that he guarded last season. In a way, it's like I'm playing Devontae Parker today. We're playing Miami, but I'm technically playing. It's kind of funny because, as a team, you're like, okay, we're playing Miami, but as a cornerback, you're like, okay, I'm playing this guy today. I'm one-on-one with this guy today. So week 7, they played the Dolphins. Devontae Parker, 100% of the time he got the snaps. 4 receptions, 10 targets, 56 yards, no burns, 1 interception. Now this is when it gets to the true number ones. And I was talking to a close friend of mine the other day. They really believe that Devontae Parker is one of the best, not one of the best receivers in the NFL, my bad. He is probably the most underrated receiver in the NFL. And that is true. And I agree with that. Devontae Parker, nobody talks about. Dolphins, bad team, not a great quarterback, Devontae Parker had an excellent season. He had over 1,000 yards receiving last season. And here, Tre'Davious White is having 100% of the snaps and having an interception only held him to 56 yards. So, very good for Tre'Davious White. Now, this is where the number ones truly come in. Hold up, I just have to scroll over. So, here we go. So, number 8, we had the Philadelphia Eagles. They played against, he guarded Alshon Jeffrey, 80.3% of snaps, 4 receptions, 5 targets, 41 yards, 2 interceptions. Big for him. Alshon Jeffrey, probably the Eagles' number 1. Guarded him. Was great. They played in week 9, they played Washington. Terry McLaurin had 100% of the snaps, 4 receptions, 5 targets, 39 yards, no interceptions. Terry McLaurin is one of the most rising star receivers in the league. If he was on a better team, better coach, last year didn't have interim. Better team, better coach, different story. But right now, he's definitely very good. For even not having a great quarterback last season, had a great year. Number 10, they played Cleveland. Odell Beckham, 100% of the snaps, 6 receptions, 13 targets, 60 yards, 2 breakups. So he had 2 breakups here. Against the Alshon Jeffrey game, I read that wrong. He had 2 breakups. No interceptions, my bad. I read that wrong. So here he had 2 breakups against Odell Beckham. Number 11, against Miami, he played Devontae Parker again, 98.5% of snaps, 7 receptions, 10 targets, 141 yards, no interceptions. Right here, this was a big game for Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker at 141 yards, had a big day against him. But, it is. Not everybody's going to be on. Week 12 played the Broncos. Cortland Sutton, 100% of the snaps, 1 reception, 8 targets, 27 yards, 3 pass breakups, 1 interception. Unreal what he did here. Just absolutely unreal. Cortland Sutton was just crazy. Number 13, Cowboys. Week 13. I'm saying number 13. My bad. Week 13 played the Cowboys. Amari Cooper, 91.8% of snaps, 5 receptions, 10 targets, 52 yards, no burns, 1 pass breakup. Week 14, Marquise Brown, Baltimore Ravens, Marquise Brown, 81.4% of the time. Three receptions, 3 targets, 5 yards. 5 yards, and 5 yards, 0 interceptions, 0 pass breakups. Week 15, James Washington, 89.5% of the time, 5 receptions, 10 targets, 46 yards, 2 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. Week 16, New England Patriots, Mohamed Sanu, 89.9% of the time, 4 receptions, 4 targets, 51 yards, 0 interceptions, 0 pass breakups. Unreal. I mean, absolutely crazy what he did. And everybody compares him to Janoris Jenkins, which makes sense because Janoris Jenkins is a big, he's a huge interception cornerback. You have those different players, right? Even in safety, at the safety position, you have, the Jamal Adams sack safeties. You have the Minkah Fitzpatrick's more zone coverage interception safeties. Same thing with cornerbacks. You have more of the pass breakups, just don't throw it here. And then also you have the guys that get a lot of interceptions. You have 2 different corners, but you can still compare the 2 because they're the same position. It's not like you're comparing, who's better, an offensive lineman or a receiver. You can't compare them. They're completely 2 different things. Now you could say who's had a more successful career. You could say that, but you can't compare the stats because the stats are completely different. You could say who's had the more successful career, this receiver or this offensive lineman. Go on, look at the Pro Bowls, look at, the games played, all that stuff, and you could be like, okay, this receiver has. But you can't, compare them stat-wise and be like, who do you think's better? I mean, you could technically compare a tight end and a receiver because they're almost the same thing. They pretty much have the same stats. You could probably compare a tight end to a receiver, especially receiving tight ends, like an Evan Ingram. He's not a big, a blocking tight end. He's more of a receiving tight end. Him compared to, a receiver, you could compare them to. Everybody always says you can't compare a receiver and a tight end. Technically, you can. Their jobs are the same, except some block. Tight ends are one of the most important positions out there on the field because they do a lot. They block, they catch. Sometimes you see them coming at fullback. Sometimes you see them. I've seen a tight end, too, at fullback and take the run right up the middle. They can do a lot of things. Tight end can do a lot of things. I've also seen some tight ends or even defensive ends turn into tight ends. J.J. Watt was a tight end. I've even seen tight ends going on defensive plays, or if it's like a 4th down defensive play, they come in because they're big. They're built like a lineman, but they also it's almost like a tight end was a position if you want to be an offensive lineman and want to be a receiver at the same time. That's literally what it is. Because you play offensive line on the play, you're really not running routes, or some plays you just don't get a route, and then you run your routes on the play that you receive. So it's almost like, okay, I want to be an offensive lineman, but a receiver at the same time. So what do? Make a tight end. But tight ends are very important. Now, everybody always focuses on the receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks. When people really bring it into depth, okay, nobody gives the offensive line credit either. That's another thing. Nobody gives the offensive line credit. The reason these running backs are great is because of their offensive line. The reason Patrick Mahomes is amazing because of his offensive line. And that's true. He doesn't have an offensive line. He gets sacked every single play. He can't get a throw off. Same thing with Tom Brady. One of the greatest quarterbacks to go down of all time. One of the greatest players to go down of all time. One of the greatest athletes to go down of all time. Nope. No. He doesn't have that career if he doesn't have an offensive line. And you notice the good quarterbacks, the good players, the great players have a good offensive line, great offensive lines. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, all these years has had a good offensive line. Russell Wilson's had a good offensive line. Lamar Jackson last year had a good offensive line. They all have good offensive lines. Dak Prescott has an amazing offensive line. Some of them retired now. Still very good. Jets are now building theirs. Darnold hasn't played that great. Look at his offensive line. Not good because you can't play. Le'Veon Bell, great offensive line in Pittsburgh, came to the Jets, horrible offensive line, had nowhere close to the season. The stats show. The numbers show. Numbers don't lie. It shows to you. So that's what I got for the Tre'Davious White. Big news for the Bills. Huge news for the Bills. And this is good news. This is good news for the Bills. The Bills, I'm sure we're not. Opting out, obviously because of family matter. But if he opted out, this could have been bad for the Bills. And the Bills are very lucky. Very, very lucky. So they get Tre'Davious White back, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, probably their best defensive player. Very good for Tre'Davious White. Very good for the Bills. Not so great for the Jets as we got to face him now twice this season, twice for a couple seasons to go until he's not a Bill anymore. Or if I'm assuming he'll probably, if he has another, because he's almost like a Gio Urshela. And I know you think this might sound crazy. Tre'Davious White, his whole career has been okay. Gio Urshela, his whole career has been It's been minor leagues, all that stuff. Tre'Davious White, for the first 2 years of his career, he's been okay. He was all right. This year, he was amazing. The Bills have to make sure that was not just a one-year wonder. They have to make sure, all right, this guy can do it again. He has another great year this year. Tre'Davious White should get his money. But, I don't know if he's going to ask for it. I don't know if he's going to be needing. I don't know if he's just going to be like, hey, give it. And I don't know. I don't know his whole contract situation. Because he's still young, still rookie deal, so, you still got to see it out. But if he has another good year this year, 2-time Pro Bowl, or you're all right, this guy's good, you might have to pay him. You might have to. But, anyway, that's what I got for the Tre'Davious White news. So, next up we have all the NFL positive tests. Very promising news, I will tell you that for sure. Very promising news for the NFL. So let me just get the site up. Let me just find this site. Okay, perfect. So, very, very good news for the NFL. This is very promising news. I would go ahead and say that for the NFL, I was probably not expecting this. They haven't started their contact yet. Contact would be the true test. Coming up next, we got the NFL tests. So, 56 NFL players have tested positive for COVID-19 since reporting to camp. Now, hold your celebrations. Now, you don't want to see any positive tests. I'll tell you that for sure. But you're going to get them. It's just going to happen. When this whole thing started, I was one of the people, and I think multiple people were like this. If one positive test happened, the whole league gets shut down. Obviously, that's not the case. If it happens in the bubble, that's a different story. That's the thing with the bubble, though. The bubble, very, very, very good. The bubbles are very, very good. But one player gets in the bubble, that could cause so much more players getting it. But, they're probably not going to get it because everything's so safe there. If I could... Okay, so anyway, 56 NFL players have tested positive for COVID-19 since reporting to camp. So this is very good news for the NFL. Now, multiple sources I trust have came out and said, this is great news. This is great news. It is. It is very good news. Still below 1%. Here's the thing. Training camp so far, no contact whatsoever. Training camp so far, no contact, nothing like that whatsoever. They've just been doing, they're still throwing and stuff. They're still doing, throwing drills and stuff. They're still doing all that stuff. Throwing, I've seen, Jets, Sam Darnold to Mims, Sam Darnold to Le'Veon, all that stuff. They're still showing up to training camp every single day, throwing, receiving, running the ball, doing drills, doing, all that stuff. They're doing everything. It's just not contact. So they're just not doing any contact thing. The defensive and offensive lines are pushing dummies. They're hitting dummies. They'll blow the whistle. They all hit a dummy. Then they blow the whistle. Next group up. It's your casual training camp. Just know the contact part of training camp will start August 17th. That is the true test. You will probably get a good reading August 25th, August 26th, August 27th of about if the season's really going to be successful. Because contact's going to be the big deal. 56 positive cases is very good news for the NFL. They're staying on a good track. But here's the problem. Here is the one problem. Start contact, that number could double, triple, quadruple, whatever. That number could very well triple. Start contact. Because now you're hitting each other. You're so up close to each other. Things like that. now all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, now this could be interesting. This could get interesting. So 56 NFL players have tested positive. That is good for no contact. If that is very good for no contact. Now, if 56 more players test positive with contact, you got yourself an NFL season. If this number doubles, triples, season could be a little bit in doubt, and you could be very interesting. But this is very good news for the NFL. Contact does start August 17th. I think by after week one of the NFL season, you'll get a true look. Coaches, players, because everybody's going to be there, refs, everything's going to be there. You all got to do that stuff. You'll be able to really, really, really see, really, really, really look and tell, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. And we're going to play a season, no, we're not, yes, we are, whatever. You know, you will really be able to see that. So that's going to be very interesting. As I drop my pen. That's going to be very interesting to, see and to watch for. I don't know who the players are. As a matter of fact, I have no clue. Who the players are. Let's write something quick down here. Don't know who the players are. They don't release it unless if the players say they do. They do have a COVID restricted list, which is supposedly too. The NFL is adding a snitch line, which is like a line where you can call if somebody has the virus and they were being irresponsible. So the NFL did, or the NBA. Now the NFL is following. But anyway, so here we go. So let's read this quick article. If I could get this little video out of the way, that would be just amazing. I'm pressing the pause button on the video. It's not working. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, so the NFL Players Association says Von Miller looks like was considering to opt out. I don't know if that was. So the NFL Players Association says that 56 players have tested positive for COVID-19 since players began reporting the training camp last week. That presents approximately 2% of the NFL players currently on NFL rosters. 2%. So I was wrong on that. Still very good, though. Still positive news, though. The league would obviously love to see 0 players testing positive. Sometimes something the NBA and NHL have both managed by putting all their players into bubbles. But the NFL is not going to use a bubble, and so a 0% rate of infection is all but impossible. It really is. It's very difficult. Unless if you have the players say, go home, don't do anything, come back. But that's not going to happen. You're still going to have that one oddball. You will limit, obviously you don't want to see any positive cases, but what I'm trying to say is you don't want to see any positive cases, but when it's only 2% of the league, it's still very good. If the league and its players can keep the infection rate relatively low, the season can go on as scheduled without having to cancel games like Major League Baseball. The problem is that keeping the rate of infection relatively low is going to be very difficult once players start practicing with each other daily and playing against each other weekly. Even one infected player being able to practice before he knows he's infected could result in the kind of outbreak within the team that the Miami Marlins had just days into baseball season, leading into a chain of reactions of games being canceled. So the NFL and the players will need to be vigilant for the next 6 months if the league is going to have a complete season up to and including the Super Bowl. So that's a very small article I just want to read. But yeah, very, very, very big for the NFL. It is true. One player gets it, spreads it. That's the whole thing with the virus. And I've said it multiple times. One person gets it, spreads it to 50 other people or multiple other people. Then they get it, then they spread it. They get it, they spread it. That's just how it is. It's just like a chain reaction. And then you start to connect the dots, right? You could start to connect. It's almost like a connecting dots game. Miami Marlins get it. Then they pass it over to the coaches. Coaches could pass it over to the umpires. Umpires could pass it over to the Phillies. Players could pass it over to the Phillies. Phillies then pass it over into, the people inside of the stadium. Like, it's just so much. There's just so much. And that's the big thing. That is the big thing. There's just so much to, worry about and things like that. But that's where a bubble comes in handy, because as long as the bubble is run properly, run well, you won't have to worry about pausing, canceling, postponing games as long as the bubble. And the bubble is doing perfectly fine because there's been games now. There's games now going on and there's no positive cases. So the bubble's doing perfectly fine. The real interesting with the bubble is by the second round of the playoffs. By the second round of the NBA playoffs, the teams will be allowed to bring in their families inside of the bubble. Don't know how they're going to be able to do that because the arenas are so tiny. How are you going to be able to fit people in? But they will be able to bring their families into the bubble. Now, you got to realize there are some teams that will be out of the bubble in just a couple of days, about a week or two. There will be some teams that will be going home from the bubble. There will be some teams that are going to stay. There will be all interesting. Now, as for the NFL, if you have a bubble, that is very big. They have contact too. The bubble, everybody's like, okay, the bubble's doing good, but it's just, everybody was just arriving. It was doing good, but everybody was just arriving. It's all right. Now, contact, everything like that, and the bubble is still doing good. The bubble is the best way to bring back sports during a pandemic. That is the best way to bring back sports, is a bubble. But the NFL didn't do that. I hope that the NFL didn't do that because... not meaning I hope that I wanted the NFL to actually do a bubble. I hope that the NFL didn't do that because they have an excellent plan in their mind that they think it's going to work. Or if it's just going to be like the NFL, MLB, and it's just going to bring players back into public life and they're going to get positive cases because players are going to casinos, players are going everywhere. If you want to bring sports back into a global pandemic, I think the bubble is the best way to go. But so far, the results have been positive for the NFL. The results have been. There's been 56 players, but, I would tell you what, I think overall the NFL is on the right track right now, but just contact is the big, big, big thing. So, I just wanted to run through the players that opted out, all the players that opted out. There's a ton of players that opted out. So, I kind of wanted to read this. I was going to read the last segment, then I was like, this actually kind of ties into the whole NFL and the testing positive thing. So, NFL team opt-out tracker, Tre'Davious White makes decision, plus every player to opt out this season. Now, I was going to read this last category, but I was like, no, because I could honestly just read it here, because this ties into the whole NFL testing. And I kind of want to, there's been so many players opting out due to the virus, and I kind of want to show you how many players have opted out. So the 2020 NFL season will be the most unique year in the league history, as it's one of the it's one that has had to grapple with the coronavirus pandemic. That includes the decision of every player whether they will take the field in 2020. The League and Players Association recently agreed to revise collective bargaining agreement that set a deadline for opt-out decisions at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, which involve a player providing written notice to his team if he does plan on sitting out this season. The NFL and the NFL Players Association agreed to a plan that allowed players to opt out of the upcoming season if they are uncomfortable with the COVID-19 health protocols put in place. High-risk individuals could opt out and receive $350,000 stipend, whereas those less risk would receive $150,000 salary advance. Players have the ability to opt out later in the season as well. In the event that a family member becomes sick, those that take the league up on their offer must provide the club with a written notice of his election to opt out. Once given, the notice will be invocable for the remainder of the 2020 season. Chiefs starting offensive line Larry Duvernay-Tardif became the first player to take the league up on their offer on August 24th. Deadline day, 5 total opt-outs around the league. Browns offensive lineman Malcolm Pridgeon, Jaguars quarterback Rashawn Melvin, Chiefs offensive tackle Lucas Niang, Jets receiver Josh Doxson, and Buccaneers offensive tackle Brad Season. One player who considered opting out but decided to play this season, Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White opened up about his process in making his decision on social media when he was still considering whether he would play. Then replied to some of the blowback he received from fans, revealing that his girlfriend's grandfather died due to COVID-19. The NFL regular season is scheduled to open Thursday, September 10th, with the Texans at the Chiefs. CBS Sports is tracking all decisions in one place. So the 49ers, I'm going to run through all the teams and all the players that opted out. So 49ers wide receiver Travis Benjamin, offensive tackle Sean Coleman, center Jake Brendel. Bears, D tackle Eddie Goldman and safety Jordan Lucas. Bengals, O tackle Isaiah Prince and defense lineman Josh Tupou. Bills, cornerback EJ Gaines and defense lineman Star Luletta. Broncos, offensive tackle Jawan James and defensive lineman Kyle Pico. Browns had a lot of opt-outs. They had 5. Defensive tackle Andrew Billings, offensive tackle Drake Dorbeck, offensive guard Drew Forbes, offensive guard Colby Gossett, offensive guard Malcolm Pritigan. Buccaneers, offensive tackle Brad Seaton. Seaton. Up here it said season. They got that one wrong. So I think it's Brad's season. Let's go on to the Cardinals. Offensive tackle Marcus Gilbert. Chargers had none. Chiefs had offensive guard Larry Darvini Tardif, O-lineman Lucas Niang, and running back Damian Williams. Colts had safety Ronald Milling, linebacker Sky Moore, and safety Marvel Tell. Cowboys had cornerback Marquise Kennedy, wide receiver Stephen Guidry, and fullback James Alwali. Dolphins had wide receiver Alan Hearns and wide receiver Albert Wilson II. Eagles had wide receiver Marquise Goodwin. Falcons had none. Giants had cornerback Sam Beal, wide receiver Damari Scott, and offensive tackle Nate Solder. Jaguars had linebacker Laurent McCray, cornerback Rashad Melvin, and defensive lineman Al Woods. Jets had wide receiver Josh Doxson, offensive lineman Leo Kolomananji, and linebacker C.J. Mosley. Lions had wide receiver Geronimo Allison, defensive lineman John Atkins, and center Russell Bodine. Packers had wide receiver Devin Funchess. Panthers had linebacker Jordan Mack, linebacker Christian Miller. Patriots had running back Brandon Bolden. Oh yeah, Patriots have a lot. Running back Brandon Bolden. Offensive tackle Marcus Cannon, safety Patrick Chung, linebacker Dante Hightower, tight end Matt Lacoste, wide receiver Marquise Lee, offensive lineman Najee Tourine, and fullback Danny Vitale. All these players I know. This is a big loss for the Patriots, these players here. The Raiders had linebacker Ukimi Elgui, defensive back DJ Killings, and defensive end Jeremiah Veluga. Rams had offensive tackle Chandler Brewer. Ravens, offensive tackle Andre Smith, wide receiver DeAnthony Thomas. Saints had tight end Jason Vanderlaan and tight end Cole Wick. Seahawks had offensive guard Chance Warmack. Steelers, none. Texans had defensive lineman Eddie Vanderdoes. Titans had offensive tackle Anthony McKinney. Vikings had defensive lineman Michael Pierce. Washington Redskins, or Washington football team, had defensive lineman Khalid Brantley and linebacker Josh Harvey Clemens. That is all the players that opted out. So there was a lot of players that opted out. There was some teams that actually had none. There was some teams that had more than others. The Patriots had a ton. And everybody's different. I guess everybody's a little bit different throughout this whole process. Some players feel that they need to opt out. Some players feel that the health safety protocols, their people at their homes and everything like that is okay. So it really is everybody's, well-being. And like I said, I don't mind if players opt out. If they, family comes before football. Family comes before sports anyway. Sports is just, another thing, right? That's the whole thing. And I've been trying to make this clear on my podcast is when talking about the players opt out. If a player opts out, sure, I might be a little upset because, like when CJ Mosley opted out, I'm a little upset because I was hoping, to see him, have an excellent year this year, obviously after his early exit last year with his groin injury. He opted out because he had family issues. Family comes before football. If you really believe you're putting your family at risk and things like that, then, you do. But I'm not going to sit out here and, play, oh, this guy's stupid for doing this guy's dumb. No, I'm not going to do that. I respect if a player opts out. If they opt out, they opt out, right? Some players are opting out because they just straight up do feel like they're at risk. Most players are opting out because of their family. Some are mainly opting out because they just don't like the protocols or they just feel like they're at risk. Most players, though, are opting out due to family. That's at least what I've heard. CJ Mosley family. Most of these guys are opting out due to family. I know most of them are. Some may be just opting out, or some, or have different reasons. Everybody has a different reason. Like, everybody has a different reason. Everybody has a different reason. So it is what it is. But hey, you're gonna get it. You're not gonna get a whole league. And some teams didn't have any opt-outs. But like I said, sure, I'm a little upset when I opt out. Like Josh Doctson opted out for the Jets. I was actually hoping he would have a decent season. I've always known him to be an okay receiver with the Redskins. I was hoping to see him maybe do something good here. Not probably I don't know if he would have done anything crazy. I wasn't expecting MVP, Super Bowl win for us. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, okay, maybe have a decent season. Maybe almost be like what a Demaryius Thomas did last year. Just produce something, be productive, be good in the, just a couple throws here and there. All we need you to do is just catch a couple balls here and there. Maybe get a touchdown or two and we'll be good. That's what Demaryius Thomas did last year. I was hoping to see that. Obviously not the case. But if his family's, obviously if he thinks his family's at risk, then his family is at risk. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to go sit there and say stuff about people, oh, this guy's opting out, all that stuff. Well, they can opt out if they want, right? Everybody has, I've always said this, everybody's reacting to this differently. Not everybody's reacting to this the same. Some people are reacting it more safer than others. Some people are like, okay, I'll go out and do this, and do this. It really all is interesting. So the Yankees game today got postponed. So the Yankees game today says it got postponed. Hold up. It says the Yankees game today got postponed. Hold up, I'm very confused. Yeah, but wait. No, this can't be right. Google's got to be wrong, right? It says today's Yankees versus Rays game. Oh, okay. So today, this is so weird. So on Google, when you Google the Yankees or whatever, it comes up and it says today's game is postponed. Then it says today 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the Yankees-Rays game. So the Yankees play today, people. The Yankees play. It looks so they have 5 games set. No, they play 4. So the Yankees play today. The Yankees did lose yesterday, 5-4. Yankees moved to 9-3. Phillies moved to 3-4. Yankees had 4 runs, 9 hits, no errors. Phillies had 5 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. Yankees, Talkman went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Voit 0 for 4. Hicks 1 for 4. Stanton 1 for 4. Torres 0 for 4. Gardner 2 for 3 with a run scored. Judge 0 for 1. He pinched hit. Urshela 1 for 4 with 2 runs. Gary 1 for 4 had a home run with a run scored and 2 RBIs. Wade went 0 for 2 with a walk. And LeMahieu went 1 for 1 with a single right up the middle. He came in to pinch hit. Jordan Montgomery, 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 5 earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. David Hale, 2 1/3, 1 hit, no earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Jonathan Older, 1 2/3, 1 hit, no earned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. 3 strikeouts for both of them there. Yankees play today. Give them a win. So yeah, Yankees play today. Should be fun to watch. Excited. Today, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that Yankees game. Mets also play today against the Marlins. I give them a win as well. The Marlins are 6-1. As a matter of fact, do the Marlins pull one off here? Oh, we got 48. Okay, 48 minutes, right? I don't know. Or 49 minutes. I don't know. Do the Marlins pull one off? I don't know. Do the Marlins pull one off? They're 6-1. Hey, let me look at the pitching line. Actually, I don't know. I'm just gonna give. I will give the upset. I will give the Mets the win. If the Marlins win, I will give the Marlins the win tomorrow. But if the Mets win, I want to see the Marlins beat the Mets first. I'm going to give the Mets the win. But if the Marlins win, then so on, I will give the Mets the loss. So tomorrow's game, just know, watching this podcast, because I don't do podcasts on Saturday, but I do Around a Dime podcast on Sundays. If today's game, I'm going to give the Mets the win. The Marlins, I know, are 6-1, but they also were playing, I think, the Orioles, right? The Orioles aren't a horrible team, but, the Marlins, they were playing the Orioles, right? Yeah, they're playing the Orioles. Orioles are now 5-7. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. Actually, do I give the Marlins the win? I don't know. This one's kind of up in the air. Because the Mets are coming off of a win. Or are they? I don't know. I'll give the upset. I guess I'll give the upset. Maybe, I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. Let's move on to the Nets game. The Nets play today against the Celtics, or the Kings, my bad. Nets play today against the Kings. As a matter of fact, I have the Nets winning this game. We lost yesterday, or lost the other day to the Celtics. We then beat the Bucks. Lost to the Magic, beat the Wizards. We are so far 2-2 in the restart. Beat the Wizards and the Bucks and lost to the Magic. No, beat the Wizards and the Bucks, lost to the Magic and the Celtics. So we're 2-2 in the restart. The Mets have more wins than I expected. We're 2-2 in the restart. Good for the Mets, or the Nets. And then the Islanders also play today, I'm pretty sure, right? Yes, today at 12. I might watch some of that game. They play today against the Panthers. I said the Islanders win the series. I say the Islanders win the series. They're up 2-1, so they got to win this game, and they win the series. That's what I got for the podcast today. That Mets game is going to be interesting. But the Yankees also play today. That should be fun to watch. Hopefully everybody has a good weekend. I will see you all back here on Sunday to do the baseball pod, and Monday for the all sports pod. So have a good weekend. I'll see you Sunday for the baseball pod, Monday for the all sports pod. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend, and have a good rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.